I've known about undergraduate research since very early in my time at OSU because most of my friends are science majors and engineering majors who are pressured to get into a laboratory very early on in their undergraduate careers. But I also had interest in exploring topics independent of my coursework and in depth beyond what a single semester could do. I studied the history and present day politics of environmental conservation around and across international borders in southern Africa. I was mostly in Zambia and Zimbabwe, so I was interested in how the particularities of the historical experience of these countries, these places, and the peoples who inhabit them and their ancestors who have inhabited them play out in these kind of contemporary environmental conservation and economic development schemes that are very present across the continent. The main kind of institution that I was studying it's called the Kavango-Zambezi Transfrontier Conservation Area, which is a multinational environmental collaboration across international borders. One of the interesting things that I learned about over the summer was how the politics of erecting fences around various land use areas it can be contentious. National parks in Zimbabwe, for example, have a policy of no fencing around them, but that means that the lions, for example, or elephants who live inside these national parks are free to roam, and often that leads to conflicts with farmers who live on the outside whose cattle might be eaten by a lion. One of the things that interests me is how do people in charge of making decisions about conservation issues and land use issues take into account both the needs and wants of humans who live in these areas and increasingly the needs of non-human animals who are valued in certain ways by a global community and by loaded pockets of tourists coming in. Everything has multiple sides. It has undermined, in some ways, my own impressions of what national parks in southern Africa, which you see on nature documentaries or PBS specials, how they're constructed and how they play out in a very political fashion. It seemed to me before that, this beautiful landscape had always existed as such. Not the case. Various people are often evicted from land that they've lived on their whole life and that their parents lived on, for example, to make space for animals. And so that seems problematic to me in some way, even as I also think it's problematic to not respect the livelihoods of non-human animals. I think elephants and lions are at a risk, and many other animals are vulnerable to extinction even at this point, somewhat because of human activity. There's no right answer, and that's a valuable lesson to learn. So after returning from Southern Africa over the summer, I was able to present a poster of my preliminary findings, the directions I'm hoping to be heading in as I write my thesis over the next year, and I'm excited to keep exploring these issues. The small time, I guess, that I was able to be there relatively did enrich so much all the thoughts that I have now reading secondary literature or other just textual documents and hearing other people speak about this. It definitely gave me a new perspective on things. I would really encourage other students to think about doing independent research. Even as it may sound daunting, I think it provides an excellent opportunity to learn about literally anything that is of interest to you